What I try to do and the way I think about business is during Monday through Friday, I'm holding down my present. What I've currently built, that's what I'm holding down. In your case, if you're starting new, that's what you're building. Then on the weekends, I'm forging ahead. I'm doing more things. So one of the things I would do on the weekend is run the coaching calls, right? And I would iterate the program, or I would fix the program, or I make adjustments. And the reason I did that is during the week, I was so busy trying to make sales and do outreach, client coaching calls, that I would move the less important stuff to the weekends so I could get stuff done. And you guys have to be willing to sacrifice your weekends. A lot of people, if you're only trying to work Monday through Friday, and then you want to take weekends off, that sounds great in theory, but I think you have to put in a lot more effort initially before you can take that time off. And I'm just saying that from personal experience. If you're able to pull off what I've done without doing that, good for you. But I put in an enormous amount of effort to get to where I am today. Now, on top of working a little bit more on the weekends, one of the things you need to make sure you're doing is track 3 key metrics. What I have written down is calls booked, cash in, and then conversations. And so when you're starting the business, you don't have a lot of staff, you don't have a lot of overhead, you don't have a lot of things to focus on. So it's very simple. What activities are going to drive more sales? To get more sales, you usually need more sales calls. To get more sales calls, you need to have more conversations. So if I'm tracking how many messages I'm outreaching today, how many calls I book, and then how many sales I made, so cash in, I know if I'm doing the inputs to get the outputs. And that's all you have to focus on in business. You don't have to focus on the outputs. You don't have to focus on what other people do. You have to focus on the inputs. And so for an input, if I made a goal to send 100 messages a day, and 30 people usually reply, and I get 6 sales calls, and let's say I suck at sales, so I close 1, and I'm able to do that on a continual basis, well, you can guesstimate what you're going to make by the end of the week, or what you're going to make by the end of the month. A lot of people, they'll look at a business and say, it's not working. I say, what are your inputs? What have you done to get the outputs? And they'll go, oh, I don't know. I don't have any numbers. I'm not tracking anything. It's very simple, because when you track those 3 key metrics, it's only 3. Messages sent, calls booked, cash in, or sales, right? You know if you're doing the inputs to grow the business. And what's cool is when you focus on those inputs, the more inputs you do, the more the business will grow. Then you can start, working on paid ads and stuff like that after. But keep it super simple, because in the beginning, those 3 key metrics will absolutely blow up the business. Now, you may be asking, this all sounds great in theory, but when do I actually know to quit my 9 to 5? In my opinion, it's to set a frame number. So at the time, I was making $3,000 a month as a full-time income in my job, right? I was a server, it wasn't that great. So I said, hey, as long as I'm making at least $3,000 a month in this new business, I'll go ahead and quit so I can go full-time. Now, luckily for me, finally after 2 years of making nothing, I went to 10K in the first week, so it gave me a huge cushion. I felt like, man, I got 3 months to figure this out. So I just completely quit and went all in. But if the goal for you is, hey, I'm gonna replace my income, set that as your goal. If the goal is, hey, I need to have 2 times my income, okay, set that as a goal. But be realistic in what it's gonna take to get there, because some people, in my opinion, they wanna make too much. Meaning, they're like, hey, I want to get to 10,000 a month, but they're only putting in enough work to get to 3,000 a month. So make sure you set a freedom number is what I call it, but make sure your inputs match the freedom number. And last but not least, go all in when it makes sense. So for me, once I made $10,000 in that first week, I went all in, because the last 2 years I'd been part-time trying to build this business. I'd gone nowhere. I made $2,000 total. And then as soon as I made 10 grand in the first week, when I started implementing some of these principles that I just shared with you, it was a no-brainer. I said, hey, I make $3,000 a month. That's about what I need to survive. I got 90 days to figure this out. And I went all in, and things absolutely started to roll from there, and it completely changed my life.